Evening. Let's call this meeting to order of the Anderson Township Zoning Commission. This is Monday, February 23rd. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Paul, we have some new faces in the crowd tonight, so I'll turn it over to you. Go ahead.
First off, I'd like to introduce the new zoning commission member, who's our second alternate. It's Mr. Jeffrey Anderson.
You're new.
Thank you. And he was recently appointed as the second alternate for this coming year, 2015.
Good.
Christine has been promoted, and Jay have both been promoted to regular members of the zoning commission. And then Mr. Harry Heskamp is the first alternate.
Okay. And then Brad Bowers?
And then Brad Bowers is our co-op student for the semester, for the spring semester, and he'll be with us through about the first of May.
From what university?
University of Cincinnati.
All right. Well,
Welcome.
good to meet you. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and go to the next item on the agenda. That's approval of minutes. I've reviewed the minutes, and we can only act on the November 24th edition. Both Ms. Cook, Mr. Lewis, and I were present, so I'll take a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for November 24th.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item is election of the officers. I had a chance to talk to staff a minute ago who had conversations with our other full-time zoning commission members, and on the basis of all these conversations, I think we're agreeable that, if you're agreeable, I'll serve another term as chairman of the board, and then my friend here to the left will act as the vice chairman for the next calendar year. So,
It's agreeable?
I agree.
All right. So maybe a motion in that on that matter, please.
Make a motion to approve the election of officers for Matt for chair and Jonathan for vice chair.
Okay. Second.
I second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Vice Chair. The next item on the agenda is final development plan review for case 4-2014 FDP filed by McBride Dale Clarion on behalf of Kroger Company. This is the final development plan for the property at 7850 Beachmont Avenue, Zone E Retail. Anderson Township staff report.
Chairman, I
Oh,
may
I'm
have
sorry.
a conflict of interest, so I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay. Let the record show.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you. As Mr. Chairman stated, this is a final development request for Kroger, who is represented by Mr. Greg Dale of McBride Dale Clarion. The case history, the zone change from C residence, E retail, and E PUD, planned unit development, was approved to EE planned retail. This was heard by Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission on November the 6th, 2014. It was reviewed by the Zoning Commission on November 24th, 2014, and reviewed and approved by the Board of Township Trustees on December the 18th, 2014. The trustees approved this with a vote of 3-0 with 19 conditions. So with a final development plan review, this is a public meeting but not a public hearing. So the role of the Zoning Commission is to review the final development plan that has been submitted and ensure its consistency with the intentions of the conditions placed on the zone through the zone change process by both Regional Planning Zoning Commission and the Township Trustees. So how we've outlined the staff report, and for those of you following along, there are copies of the staff reports out in the hallway. We identified the conditions, and just to refresh your memory, which I think you're all very familiar, this is the Kroger, existing Kroger building, and this is Beachmont Avenue and Wolfang. I'm sorry, that's Town Center Way. This is Wolfangle here in Bowen. This was the proposed expansion that was presented as part of the zone change. This was the area that was Zone C, single family, and the entire site was brought in as one plan under the one rezoning of EE. So how we've outlined in the PowerPoint, we've taken the conditions that were not compliant or were a future phase, and identified those on the PowerPoint and made notes. That's the way they are also identified in the staff report. So we won't go through every single one of them unless you have questions on a particular one that says compliant. But staff has identified the areas where we felt that the submitted plan was compliant with the conditions, and we'll start with the conditions that were placed by Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission. So the first condition dealt with, and on the PowerPoint, we only listed the ones that weren't compliant or had modifications. So as far as regional planning, the first dealt with streetscape and landscaping. We felt that this was compliant on the submitted landscaping plan. The second part referred to the future development area out of the corner of Wolf Angle and Beachmont, which staff felt was compliant. The third was regarding the appropriate grass and landscape area be maintained along Wolf Angle from Bowen, we felt was compliant. The fourth item dealt with the lighting plan, and the submitted lighting plan was non-compliant, and staff is recommending that this be resubmitted and so that it is compliant with the conditions, brought into compliance. Number 5 and number 6 compliant, and number 7, the condition from Regional Planning Commission was modified by the trustees, so we will get to that. Okay. So on to the Township Zoning Commission and the Board of Township Trustees. Skip down to number 4, which deals with lighting plan again, and as you'll recall, there was an existing variance on the height of the poles up to 38 feet, where only 24 feet is allowed per the zoning regulations. The Zoning Commission and trustees approved the variance reapproved the variance for these lighting poles, except in the area adjacent to the residential uses along Bowen and along Wolf Angle, kind of the northeastern quadrant of the parking area. It could not be determined on the submitted lighting plan whether those were brought down to 24 feet and what the actual heights of the poles were in that area. So that is an area where we would recommend a condition that it be brought into compliance and a lighting plan be resubmitted. Number 8 refers to the future development area at the corner of Beachmont and Wolf Angle be reviewed as a second phase, and again, this will be coming in as a second phase before the Zoning Commission. Number 10 dealt with the signage at the corner of Wolf Angle and Beachmont, and this is yet to be designed and will be submitted as part of their signage package. Number 14 referred to traffic flow for the online shopping pickup area. This has been removed from the final development plan submittal, so we made a note of that, and we're unclear if this will be a future phase or not. So currently it's been removed from the final development plan that was submitted. Number 18 deals with the design and configuration of the development at the corner. Again, this is a future phase. And then number 19, a pedestrian plan was submitted as part of the site plan. And this area here opposite Arlington, this is a right in, right out off of Wolf Angle. There is a sidewalk identified on the northern portion of that access, and the staff was recommending that there also be one on the southern to connect the sidewalk along Wolf Angle to the internal pedestrian circulation. So as far as recommendations, again, staff recommends approval of the final development plan with 2 conditions. The first dealing with the sidewalk that was just referred to, and then a revised final development plan set be submitted, including a revised lighting plan and any other issues raised at tonight's meeting. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff at this time? Yes, go ahead, Ms. Cook.
Is there a crosswalk at Arlington and Wolf Angle?
A crosswalk here.
Yeah.
There's not necessarily one identified on the plan, but there should be one. There will be a sidewalk on Wolf Angle from Beachmont to Bowen, and then the township will be constructing a sidewalk opposite Wolf Angle on the east side.
Is that designated, I guess, is that the way that's shown, that it's going to cross into that raised island?
It should be a question for the applicant.
Okay, we'll ask that later. Good.
And if a crosswalk is present, staff still recommends that additional sidewalk?
Yes, staff just encourages in any sidewalk plans that we review, accommodation for pedestrians, on both entrances. One was added off of the entrance on Beachmont Avenue. There is a sidewalk on both sides of the entrance there. There is a pedestrian connection from the future development area, that does tie up to Bowen or the future Town Center Way. Again, we just feel like that would complete the pedestrian connection, or the pedestrian network in the site.
Great, thanks for clarifying. That's all I have.
Mr. Lewis?
With the removal of the online shopping option, if they come back later, will we have to go through this? Is that a question for the applicant?
If no additions to the building, if it's just pavement marking or changes in the parking lot itself, it could be reviewed at a staff level.
My concerns are about the traffic flow.
Right. So it wouldn't necessarily come back to the zoning commission if it is just the addition, or modifications of the drive aisles. It was originally proposed in this area, so if it is just, they're not adding impervious surface, and it does fall into the criteria as a minor review for staff versus coming back to zoning commission.
Good. Mr. Anderson, questions? No questions. Okay. Just, Paul, I guess a remark on in the earlier review on the east side boundary of both the property and the building. I know we were concerned about the impact on the neighborhood. Are there any fixtures or anything on that east wall of the expansion area that might not be shaded from the neighbors?
Lighting fixtures?
Lighting fixtures in particular.
We didn't put the lighting plan in the PowerPoint just because it's very difficult to read. The foot candles at the property line were compliant with our parking lot standards. So, as far as the parking lot lighting is concerned, it was compliant. It was the 0.1 foot candles at the property line.
Okay. That's all I have. Any other questions for staff? No. This time we'll invite the applicant to come forward and identify yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Greg Dale with McBride Dale Clarion, here on behalf of the applicant. We concur with virtually everything that staff has concluded in terms of the compliance with the conditions. In fact, we've worked very closely with staff to make sure that it is compliant with two potential comments. One with regard to the lighting. We thought it was compliant, but frankly, if you've ever read a photometric plan, you kind of have to get a magnifying glass out to read it. So we appreciate staff's inability to conclude that it was compliant. Let's just say that. It will be compliant. We will present the documentation to demonstrate that, so we're absolutely fine with that condition. With regard to the sidewalk at Arlington, Commissioner Cook, to pick up on your point, yes, there is a crosswalk that's shown there. You indicated, or you raised a question as to, it does look like it kind of cuts across that corner. That's a detail that would get worked out with the county engineer who has jurisdiction over crosswalks along that street. Okay. And I've talked to the civil engineer about this. We actually think that is a better place to bring people across at that sidewalk rather than down closer to the store. So if people are coming up the west side of Wolf Angle, we actually think it's better if they're going to the store to cross at that point, come in on that sidewalk on the north side. For a couple reasons. First of all, if you remember the topography, they're actually coming down the hill at that point. Once you make that entrance, there's a slope down. And also, at that point, people are starting to look for places to park, and they're, kind of in that internal parking, making decisions about where they're going to go. Frankly, it's not a cost issue. It's just that in our mind, in Kroger's mind, it's a better place to have that crosswalk at that particular point. Other than that, we, as I indicated, are in support of everything else that staff has suggested here.
Questions for Mr. Dale? Ms. Cook?
No.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Anderson, no questions? Just no questions, and maybe I'll take a minute to make a comment. I had a chance to talk to one of my zoning commission members earlier and just asked whether anything could be arranged for the smoking, the employee smoking area. It's kind of right out front of the store. I don't know if there's a little hut there or something, but just a general comment about that.
Okay.
Be sensitive to how that interacts with the rest of the site.
And you do have the store manager hearing that comment.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other people in the audience want to speak in support of this application and come on forward at this point? No? Anybody has any opposing comments about the application and its compliance with the standards? Going once, going twice? Okay, seeing none, thank you. At this point, we'll go ahead and consider a motion from the Zoning Commission on the staff's recommendation and the other comments.
I'll make a motion.
Okay?
Make a motion to approve the final development plan for the Kroger, is there a piece on that one?
4.
Oh, there it is. 4-2014.
Second.
With the conditions recommended by staff, the sidewalk added on the access drive opposite Arlington, as I do see staff's purpose for connecting the additional space in the future, and the lighting plan to be brought into compliance.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second.
Second.
Mr. Anderson, roll call.
Mr. Goffard? Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Brooks?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So the next item on the agenda tonight is the case number 2-2015 PUD. This is a quasi-judicial case. So for those of you that are staying for the next two cases, I'm going to read into the record kind of the process of a quasi-judicial case. What this basically means is anyone that's going to provide testimony tonight will be sworn in. They'll also be directed that the purpose of this hearing is to receive facts, not opinions. So I want to remind anybody that intends to speak tonight that we're going to ask you to be sworn in, and then also please stick to presenting facts with regard to the case. So real quickly, let me read this to you. Under the zoning resolution, the decision that we make tonight on these next two cases is subject to appeal to the Board of Township Trustees and then to the Court of Common Pleas. As a result, we must employ different procedures than what you just previously observed, procedures different than other cases that might be presented to the Zoning Commission. And so because this is quasi-judicial, we'll receive only evidence as to whether or not the application meets or does not meet the standards and criteria in the zoning resolution. We do not want to hear opinions, just facts. As a result, all persons presenting testimony before the commission, whether for or against the applicant's position, may do so only after being sworn in and being subject to cross-examination. So when I'm done here, I'll ask anybody that's going to testify to please stand and be sworn in. The staff will present a summary of the application. The applicant will then present his case or her case. The board members may ask questions of the staff and anyone who speaks on behalf of the applicant. If an attorney presents the case for the applicant, the attorney is not sworn in and is not considered to be a witness. As a result, the attorney's statements are not considered as evidence in this case. Evidence only comes in through the witnesses who testify before the Zoning Commission after being sworn in. The burden is on the applicant to present evidence that the application satisfies the standards and criteria for approval. After the applicant presents its case, through its witnesses, all persons in the audience supporting this application will be permitted to testify one at a time after being recognized by the chair. When anyone comes forward, we're going to ask them to please give their name and their position on the case. If anyone in opposition is presented by an attorney, that party will go first, followed by any members in the audience. As stated previously, all persons wishing to testify, whether for or against the application, may do so only after being sworn in. When testifying, each person from the audience come forward, as I said, speak into the microphone, state your name and address and your affiliation to the case. We're going to give each person that testifies 4 minutes, unless the zoning commission would like to extend that for any particular person. All testimony should be directed to the commission, please. No comments or questions are be directed to the applicant, in this case, or anyone else in the audience. The commission will only hear new, non-repetitive evidence or questions. So if you hear somebody else that says, this is a fact, if you believe that same fact, it's not necessary to repeat it. Should someone wish to show support of a previous testimony, that may do so by following the testimony procedures and stating their support. Now, with all persons who may give testimony, and we're going to do this for both case 2-2015 and 1-2015. So anybody that's going to provide testimony this evening, if you will now, please stand, rise, raise your right hand, and swear or affirm. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. With that, we'll go into the first case, which is item number 5 on the agenda. This is the quasi-judicial hearing for case 2-2015 PUD, filed by Shorewood Development Group on behalf of WPW Cincinnati. We'll go ahead and have the staff present.
Thank you. The location is at 7910 Beachmont Avenue, and the request is to approve the planned unit development application to allow redevelopment of a portion of the Pinnacle Plaza for a 1,054 square foot addition and parking lot modifications for a new grocery store. The case history, we'll review that a little bit in the staff report. There were a couple of errors regarding to the parking space numbers, which in the staff report, and I'll clarify those as we go along. Again, to get you oriented, this is Beachmont Avenue here. This is the existing Pinnacle Plaza, Applebee's in the front, Coldwell Banker, and Cheviot Savings. This is the Township Operations Center, the fire station, Public Works Building, Public Works Garage. Selm Manor is to the north of the site in question. The existing zoning for the site is E retail. To the north, it is DD, planned multifamily residential, Selm Manor, which is a senior housing building. You have multiple retail and office uses along Beachmont Avenue, again, all zoned single family. And then the yellow in this area, this is the IHM and Michael Heart of Mary Church and School, and it is zoned, it has a combination of retail zoning along Beachmont and single family to the north. The site itself is 9.39 acres with approximately 505 feet of frontage on Beachmont Avenue. This is just the aerial photo without the zoning layer. And sorry, we do have better slides coming up, but this was scanned in as the site plan. Again, the majority of the improvements are to the elevation to the facade of the building. This is the existing FitWorks location, and it would be occupied by Fresh Time. There is a small addition onto the front of the building, primarily for a new entryway and for grocery cart storage in the front area. Other improvements proposed for the site include a new pedestrian sidewalk from the sidewalk along Beachmont Avenue to the front door. Also, a pedestrian connection from the rear of the building from Selm Manor. As you could see from the, this is Selm Manor here. They have a sidewalk that comes to the edge of the property. There are also proposed improvements for a truck route through the parking lot. So most of the improvements in the parking area are for the truck route, but with that, it allows for the opportunity to install additional landscape islands. So they are proposing a truck route to come in at the signal to the rear of the building, but again, it does allow the opportunity for additional landscape islands. This is a 3D rendering of other Fresh Times in the area. This is one of this particular store of what the facade would look like. And this is the side elevation. This is the landscape plan, and again, the drawing in your packet is a little bit better. This is an existing shopping center, and the landscape islands and the interior landscaping is not conforming to today's standard. The original shopping center was built in 1974. There have been multiple variance hearings, primarily related to parking, the number of spaces, but with the township's PUD regulations and now with the addition of square footage to the building, it does require them to come before the zoning commission for PUD review. So some site photos. This is the existing FitWorks building, or existing FitWorks space. Looking along the front, there are 2 freestanding signs on the property. They're both non-conforming. The frontage along Beachmont Avenue allows for the site to have the shopping center premise, to have 2 freestanding signs. So they are allowed 2 freestanding signs. The 2 signs are non-conforming due to their height and to their overall size. A conforming sign today would be a maximum height of 15 feet and maximum size of 100 square feet per side. But these were conforming at the time that they were installed. These other site photos gives you an indication of the conditions along Beachmont Avenue. There is an existing sidewalk and landscape area that is primarily shrubbery. There were trees that have slowly been removed. This is the other non-conforming sign. And then just other site photos of the parking lot looking south back toward Beachmont Avenue, and this is toward the rear of the property looking toward Sim. So again, the existing impervious surface is 93.1%. With the proposed improvements of the landscape islands, it does reduce the impervious surface to 92.7. There are multiple variances that exist or were heard for this property. The first that we'll talk about is in 1993. This is for a reduction in required parking spaces. Then again, in 1996, a reduction in surface or parking spaces. In 1998, there was a variance for a commercial storage facility, and this type of use was not permitted in the retail zoning district, and this variance permitted that use to go into the shopping center. So there is an existing variance for that. There was an additional request pertaining to that self-storage facility for the outside storage of boats and automobiles and trailers, and that was denied in 2001. So as far as zoning resolution compliance, the existing parking lot, and this is where there is an error in the staff report. The existing parking lot contains 458 spaces. The applicant is proposing to reduce that to 444 spaces, which with the square footage of this shopping center, an optimum number would be 489, and that's at the lower end of the optimum number. And again, the applicant is proposing 444 spaces, so that would be a variance for your consideration for tonight. And again, the primary reason for the reduction of spaces is for the truck route, to have the better circulation for the trucks, for delivery trucks to the back. So in order to do that, parking spaces were eliminated and replaced or widened. The truck route was widened, but also additional landscaping was installed. Another item for your consideration, again, are the 2 freestanding signs, and again, those are non-conforming. There are no variances, they're just non-conforming signs that were installed prior to the current signage regulations. In looking at a PUD, we look at the township adopted plans, and again, these are outlined in the staff report. We first look at the township's comprehensive plan, and staff has just identified areas of those plans we feel that this proposal is consistent with those plans. Transportation, economic development, quality of life, and sustainability. We also look at the Anderson Trails plan. In particular, this development is proposing a sidewalk connecting the sidewalk along Beachmont to the front door, which is consistent with the Trails plan, as well as providing pedestrian accessibility from residential uses to the north. design guidelines. This particular neighborhood is in transition from the downtown area, which is around from 5 Mile to Asbury. Once you get beyond Asbury, it starts to transition more to, once you get out as far east as Target to a suburban area. So this is an area that's somewhat in between. And we looked at more recent developments within the area that include the development of Beachmont and Witt, which the Zoning Commission reviewed. There's a new Firestone in the area. There's a new Krispy Kreme development going in the area. The buildings are encouraged, in some instances, to come closer to the roadway if possible. There is a mixture of architectural elements in that area. So it's hard to define exactly what the character of that area is, but when we look to the design guidelines, we do look for a mix of building materials, which the applicant is proposing. They are retrofitting an existing shopping center, so adding a mixture of building materials. They are adding landscaping, and there are notes further in the staff report where we are recommending that they do bring the existing landscape islands into compliance with current zoning, as well as replace the trees along Beachmont Avenue. And then signage again, we do recommend the Zoning Commission have a discussion regarding the signage. So as far as the recommendation is to approve the PUD based off of the following reasons. With proposed conditions, I neglected to say that no bike racks were identified on the plan, so that is an item we recommend that they bring into compliance. But those are the other trees along Beachmont Avenue and the interior landscaping islands. And the other variance, again, is from Section 145B, and this is to allow for 444 parking spaces where 489 would normally be approved or compliant. So, be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from the Zoning Commission for staff at this time? Mr. Anderson? No? Ms. Cook?
No.
Mr. Lewis?
Paul, is there a Metro Park and Ride in that parking lot toward the east?
There is no longer. That is being phased out.
Will that free up
There
parking
was.
spots?
Not for this shopping center. That was recently converted to an expanded recycling center for the township. And then a portion of it has been improved for sheriff and public works storage for their vehicles and equipment. So there was one at one time, but that's been phased out. And this parking right at the top of the hill is encouraged to replace that facility.
Okay. The second question I had has to do with the traffic flow with like the buses coming out of IHM.
Mm-hmm.
It's like twice a day, and they get backed up. I'm not sure how that affects the hours of operation and the traffic flow from going from a FitWorks to a grocery.
And that may
With a
be a
single
question
light.
for the applicant.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Gothard?
Just one question concerning the ingress egress. Is there any requirements for traffic circulation, monitoring stop signs, especially at the new truck entrance?
So there is, and I don't think we have any site photos for this. So this is considered an Anderson access way. It connects from IHM through the Pinnacle Plaza, through the township property, and well, let's see here. This is a better shot. So from IHM through the Pinnacle Plaza area and through the township property, and then it terminates at the senior center and the new Firestone. There are stop signs, and the owner can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe there are stop signs in this general vicinity, and I can't remember if there are stop signs in this area here. This area is somewhat confusing just because it doesn't line up. There's a slight curve. There's a stop sign, it's just not lined up. So this is an area that if no, vertical signs are present, pavement markings definitely should be added. This is just the congested area, and again, primarily because it doesn't line up. And if cars are parked in this general area, the line of sight is somewhat blocked.
Paul, just one question regarding the recommendation about the sign, bringing it into compliance. Is it true that most of the cases where we did take that action were single-tenant sites, maybe a standalone tenant, change in tenancy, and not a shopping center like this?
Right, not necessarily with this, a new tenant going into a shopping center. Now, there have been sites that have been completely redeveloped, like the Anderson Town Center, where their signage was required to come into compliance. That was a redevelopment, and that was a variance heard through our Board of Zoning Appeals. Just the most recent cases, again, you're right, single tenant, Firestone, Krispy Kreme, Beachmont and Witt, the car dealers down the corner, Volkswagen, the Subaru, Tide,
Just clarify.
and the Anderson Bar Pub and Grill.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, we're going to go ahead and ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward and speak into the microphone. State your name, address, and the affiliation with the case. Sirs, come on forward.
Good afternoon. Louis Schreiber, Sherwood Development Group. We are the proposed purchasers and... Good afternoon, Louis Schreiber, Sherwood Development Group. Address 2150 East Lake Cook Road, Buffalo Grove, Illinois. We're the proposed purchasers and redevelopers of this project.
My name is Dan Engspat. I'm the in-house civil engineer for Sherwood Development Group, 2150 East Lake Cook Road, Buffalo Grove, Illinois. Just want to say I think Paul did a great job in introducing the project and explaining what we're doing right here. I just want to highlight a couple of the site improvements that we're making. Paul is correct where some of the positive things that we're doing to the site is increasing the landscaping about 1,600 square feet. I think we're open to all of the recommendations for the parkway trees and getting the islands up to conformance that we're reconfiguring. There's one thing on Beachmont Avenue. The DOT has a plan to reconfigure the driveways, so I just want to work on the timing of installing those parkway trees so we have healthy trees in there. Some of the other improvements that we're making that Paul touched on was the pedestrian walkways from the north and to the south. In doing that and what we're doing, we're trying to create a safe ADA accessible routes for the pedestrians as well as handicapped people. Some of the reconfigurations is kind of hard to see on the site plan is we're updating the Fresh Time Farmers Market handicap stalls to be in ADA compliance, smooth surface, easy parkway, and a path towards our front entrance. The vestibule addition that we're doing is strictly for the vestibule, but in doing so, we have the opportunity to do brand-new sidewalks on the front sidewalk of Fresh Times as well as on the side. And in doing so, we get to put in new handicap ramps just to improve on the ADA routes for the customers. I think that's basically the extent of the site work. We're trying to minimize the site work and showing the improvements at the Fresh Time space, and hopefully it's adds new life into this existing plaza. We think it will.
Thank you. At this time, any questions from the zoning commission for the applicants? Mr. Anderson? Ms. Cook?
Probably the question we all have about signage is, are you open to some changes to the signage?
I think some of the existing tenants have current rights to those signs right now, and with our understanding and working with staff, what we're trying to propose is just replacing the panels of the current FitWorks panels with the Fresh Time Farmers Market panels. That was our idea.
Mr. Lewis?
No questions.
No. Scott?
A couple questions. On the signal access from Beachmont Avenue and the truck turn, with the auto turn analysis, it swings into the other drive lane. How are you going to manage traffic of that, stopping them far enough back that the truck can make the turn?
Is that where the striped area is? And
Yes.
kind of, yep.
And then where the tapered island is to the east?
Correct, correct. There's currently some existing signs out there. There's also currently some pavement striping that's out there. However, it's been worn off, the pavement striping. They had stop bars. So we're definitely open for signs or additional pavement striping to help control that traffic. The existing truck route for the overall mall, we're maintaining the same route that it's at right now. All we're doing is, I guess, when we do the studies of the truck, we're just being conservative and showing our truck swinging out more to make an easier movement. So we're not changing the route at all. We're just trying to improve on the flow of it. So we're open to any signage is required.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question then about the trucks. Do they come at certain hours of the day during hours of operation, after hours?
We try to do them early in the morning, bright and early in the morning. I think they start 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So that's when we try to put the trucks in there.
When are the hours of the store is open?
Do you recall the,
9 to 7, 9 to 8.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant this time? Thank you.
thank you.
Be seated. I believe in the swearing in, I didn't see any other, with the exception, I think, of a case over here, anybody that was sworn in to testify. I'll go ahead and ask, though, at this point, if there's anybody that would like to speak regarding this application, please come forward. If you haven't been sworn in, we'll swear you in. So, last call for anyone? Okay. So hearing no proponents to the application, no opposition to the application, no reason for the applicant to rebut any of the testimony. Are there any other questions from the zoning commission at this time? Anyone?
No.
Staff, any additional comments? Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and, without objection from the zoning commission, close this hearing. We have the option tonight to take this case under consideration and deliberate tonight or at an upcoming meeting. It's been our practice, I think, almost entirely, Paul, that we take action on the night of the hearing. So with that, I'll open it up to the zoning commission for any additional comments or a recommendation.
My only comment is how do we mitigate the signage with the existing?
I just comment, I think that's the nature of the question I raised, is that, I guess I'll say, if this was a single tenant on a single property, not a shopping center with multiple tenants, I'd be more comfortable. These are big, massive signs with probably complicated lease requirements. So I personally think, in this case, it's not like the others, and I'm not as inclined to try to have one of those either removed or, removed and replaced with something more in compliance. That's my position.
I think I agree with you. I agree with you.
Okay, so,
I just don't want to set a precedent that we never address the signage. Understand the single tenant versus multiple.
yep. Other comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to approve Anderson Township case number 2-2015 PUD with the condition that bike racks shall be installed in compliance with section 144 of the zoning resolution. Trees be replanted along Beachmont Avenue in conjunction with the Ohio Department of Transportation improvements, consistent with the perimeter landscape requirements in section 105E of the zoning resolution. That the interior landscape island should be brought into compliance with the zoning resolution, and also that the applicant work with staff on mitigating traffic and circulation within the space and residents. Along with that, approve the zoning variance to allow for 444 proposed parking spaces on the site.
I'll take a second on the motion.
I second.
Second, roll call.
Mr. Goffman?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Benjamin?
I'll vote yes. Thank you. The fifth item on the agenda tonight is also a quasi-judicial hearing, and we'll process that the same way as we did the prior case. Again, my memory is that the only person that was sworn in on this particular case represents the applicant. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and begin with the staff report. Paul?
Okay. This is case 1, 2015 PUD. The applicant, again, is Mr. Greg Dale on behalf of McBride Dale Clearing, representing the owner, who is Victory Real Estate Investment. This is a PUD, a request to approve a PUD plan to allow for redevelopment of the northern portion of the Anderson Town Center, which entails demolition of approximately 102,000 square feet of space and construction of approximately 145,500 square feet of retail, restaurant, and movie theater space identified on Parcel A, which we will get to in the site plan. Again, the zoning layers, the E represents retail zoning. This is the main entrance into the town center from Beachmont Avenue, 5 Mile. Here's a secondary entrance, a right in, right out behind. This is IHOP, CVS, PNC Bank, the Kroger fueling area. This is Kroger, Macy's, the town center shops, and this was formerly Kmart, Fridays, and the 2 medical office buildings. This is Town Center Way for your orientation. The town center itself is zoned E retail. There is a existing PUD for the PNC. There is also PUD for the Fifth Third Bank. And then, as you know, most recently Kroger was rezoned EE, planned retail. The surrounding zoning, this is D, which is multifamily. The C is some form of single-family residential. An aerial again of the site. So this is the schematic site plan, and it is a different orientation. So this is Beachmont Avenue here. The north is off to the corner of the slide, and 5 Mile Road. Parcel A is identified as the PUD area, which on your plan, this area is white, and then the other areas, Parcel B, Parcel C, are shaded out. This is IHOP, which is not considered a part of this PUD area. So first things first, the entire tract size for the PUD is 29.013 acres, not the 2623.23 acres that's identified on the site plan. And again, this is identified the CVS parcel, the PNC Bank parcel, the town center itself, and then where the former Kmart. There is frontage, 70 feet of frontage on Beachmont Avenue, approximately 939 feet of frontage on 5 Mile Road, and approximately 1,135 feet of frontage on Town Center Way. And this is Town Center Way here. Anderson Center is here, and this is the, well, Anderson Center is here, the park and ride is here. And again, the topography is relatively flat. So the proposed development, this is being reviewed as a PUD because the proposed ISR is 92.72%. And we'll kind of go through bullet points of the proposed development. This is the partial demolition of the 94,700 square feet of the Kmart building. This area of the Kmart building is proposed to remain. The town center shops and the boulevard coming in from Beachmont Avenue is proposed to be extended to the north with the relocation of the traffic circle. So currently the traffic circle is in this area by Kmart, and the proposal is to extend the boulevard further north with a new traffic circle. And again, this would be, the southern portion of the building would be redeveloped into 20,000 square feet of retail space. A portion of this space would be used, 20,000 square feet for an upscale fitness center, and then the remainder 5,000 square feet of just additional retail space. And then there's an additional space in that building. The existing TGIF restaurant is proposed to be demolished. The northern traffic circle would be realigned, as we just stated. A movie theater, 47,500 square feet of a dine-in movie theater is proposed. that is this building right here. And again, the front entrance would actually face Beachmont Avenue. The movie theater is proposed to have 1,025 seats. To the east of the theater is 18,000 square feet of retail in these two spaces here. The western portion of the site will contain an additional 30,000 square feet of retail restaurant space in multiple buildings. So these are the buildings. This is, again, an expansion of the streetscape, so a new retail building here on the site plan. Proposed additional retail or restaurant structures here on the outlot closest to 5 Mile, and then 2 retail spaces on the outside of Macy's, one in this general vicinity and one in this general area. In addition, the proposed clock tower is currently in this traffic circle here, so the applicants have suggested either relocation to the traffic circle closest to Beachmont or in front of the movie theater, and they are requesting, there's an existing variance for that, and they are requesting for one of the 2 locations. There are existing variances that apply to this site. There are 3 Board of Zoning Appeals cases. One, case 23-2003, which had granted a variance for a 2-foot parking lot setback along 5 Mile Road, and this was with the redevelopment of the town center. The applicants kept the parking in its current configuration, so there was a variance for the setback of the parking area along 5 Mile Road. At the same time, there was a variance for the height of the clock tower. Maximum height in this area is 45 feet, and the clock tower is 50 feet, and this was approved. There was case 9-2004, which granted a variance for the height of poles, which is the same for the Kroger that we just discussed. Interior poles up to 38 feet, where only 24 is permitted. And then case 15-2004 granted variances for the freestanding signs, which we touched on a little bit earlier as well. We talked about the PUDs that were recently heard, one in 2008 for the 5th Third outlot, which is this building here, and then one just most recently, the PNC, which was in 2014. That just didn't show up very well. And these are the elevation drawings. The elevation, this is a little, it's not as clear either, but there is one in your packet. Again, the proposed elevation of the streetscape is just a continuation of what's there, same features, same style, same color palette. And again, these are just different elevations, and you can tell, maybe not so much from the audience, but in the zoning commission packet, you can tell which elevations these are. We'll get back to that. These are the site photos. This is looking from 5 Mile to the former Kmart store and the TGIF. 5th Third is over here to the north. This is the existing clock tower. We'll just kind of go through these fairly quickly. Macy's, this is looking south toward Beachmont Avenue. This is looking from Beachmont north toward the clock tower and Fridays and the existing streetscape of the town center. And this also gives you an idea of some of the existing pedestrian connections in the shopping center with speed bumps and raised areas for pedestrians, which is proposed to also be continued throughout the development. This is looking from Beachmont Avenue into the center at one of, well, this isn't the traffic circle, but the traffic circle's up here, and one of the alternate sites for the clock tower. This is the alternate site for the clock tower. This is the Ring Road, and I didn't go over the history of that, but the township purchased the Ring Road in 2007. This was just a private access road to Beachmont Mall. The township purchased the road in 2007, so it became public right-of-way versus a private access drive. That made most of the existing parking along this roadway non-conforming because it did not meet the 10-foot setback or the streetscape requirements. And as you'll see later in the staff report, many of the variances are a result of the private street becoming a public right-of-way and working with existing conditions. This is the former Andersontown Place. This is just looking along Town Center Way toward the north. This is the backside of Kmart. So zoning resolution compliance. The applicants are requesting a front yard setback for this structure here, to have a front yard setback of 16.34 feet to the right-of-way of Town Center Way, where 30 feet is required. The movie theater includes an architectural feature, which I don't think it shows very well on the elevation drawings. We don't have a good angle, but this feature here is proposed to be 70 feet tall, where 45 feet is permitted. The remainder of the structure, the theater structure, is 45 feet, is compliant, but the architecture, well, this may show a little bit better. This architectural feature here extends up to 70 feet, where only 45 is permitted. And then again, as stated before, the clock tower has an existing variance to allow it to be 50 feet tall. However, there were conditions that stipulated substantial compliance with the plan, and it is proposed to be moved to one of the 2 traffic circles. So these are the variances that are being requested. Those that we just went over were for area and setback requirements, height and setback requirements. There are other sections pertaining to parking that are requesting variances. One is section 144, and this is the setback of parking along the right-of-way for Town Center Way. The proposed setback varies from 0 to 10 feet. Perimeter landscaping, again, primarily along Town Center Way. There is a letter that's in your packet from the township with the redevelopment of this portion of the town center. It is the township's intent to practically reconstruct Town Center Way for improvements. This has been the township's intent since it purchased the road in the beginning, and with the development of the town, Anderson Town Place, that never happened. So it's been the township's intent to reconstruct and improve Town Center Way. Those improvements would be new curbs, new drainage, new landscaping, possibly lighting, all to be engineered. We did preliminary engineering right after the purchase of the road, but it never moved forward because the town place never moved forward. So, and the township has been working with the owners of Victory to come up with a mutual plan to create this into not a ring road anymore, not a rear access drive, but also a front and main entry into the town center. So not only would you have your main entrance off of 5 Mile, but you would also have a front door appearance off of Town Center Way as well. There will be a direct connection now from 5 Mile through the town center to Town Center Way. So it's important to note that the township will be improving this. The Victory is working with existing conditions of a parking lot, so trying to work with existing conditions, improvement in Town Center Way. So they are requesting for perimeter landscaping, variances for perimeter landscaping, so that they can work with the township once the road is improved to come up with a mutual landscape plan that works for both, and also so that it doesn't get destroyed when the township redoes the road. Also, Kroger will be improving Bowen and their portion of Town Center Way to the property line in this general vicinity. As part of the Kroger plan, it is to realign Bowen to match up to Town Center Way and to have one continuous roadway. So, number of parking spaces. The parking number count was based off of retail, 4 per 1,000 square feet. We noted in the staff report that movie theaters are calculated at a higher range, which is per seat, is 1 space per 4 fixed seats. So when you do that calculation of just the theater by itself versus based on seats versus based on square footage, there is a difference of 66 spaces. In other words, if you did it based on seats, they would be required to provide 66 additional spaces than if you calculate it based on square footage. With that being said, however, it should be noted that they do have a shared parking agreement with Parcel B, Parcel A, Parcel B, and Parcel C. Victory has a shared parking agreement. And in parking in Parcel C alone, there is 355 spaces. which these are medical offices, which are primarily closed on evenings and weekends. So it is an ideal area to share parking for the theater. So although the numbers are scary when you look at it as far as short 66 spaces, they do have the opportunity for shared parking spaces with parking C. Section 144 requires a sidewalk to be constructed along all public streets. There is a sidewalk along Beachmont Avenue, and there are also pedestrian connections along 5 Mile. There is the option in the zoning resolution to provide funding for the sidewalk in lieu of constructing the sidewalk. And this is an area that the township is encouraging the owner to do so, just not knowing exactly which side of the road the sidewalk should be on Town Center Way. I think everyone is in agreement that the pedestrian connection is critical along this section of the roadway. Whether it's on, the guardrail side or on the parking side is yet to be determined, and that will be determined once the engineering for the roadway is determined. But we're not recommending that a variance be granted for that response to that zoning requirement, but we are recommending that they provide the funding for that sidewalk, regardless if it's on their side or on the other side. So we talked about Town Center Way. As far as consistency with township plans, again, we'll go through this quickly, but we felt that the Anderson plan identifies the site for general mixed use. While there isn't a residential component, there is a mixture of uses, entertainment, retail, office on this site, and it is within walkable distance to residential uses and the government center, Anderson Center. So when you look at the greater area, while this particular Anderson Town Center is not including residential uses, at least it's accommodating the connection to the neighborhoods with the surrounding pedestrian connections with the 5 Mile Trail, and there is a mixture of uses in the immediate vicinity. The Anderson Trails Plan, again, they are showing connections to the overall trails network, and the sidewalk along Town Center Way will be designed whichever way fits best with the development. Design guidelines for site planning, I felt that it was consistent with the design guidelines. Outdoor spaces are accommodated for, internal traffic circulation is accommodated. The architecture, the only area that was of key concern was the north elevation of the theater. This will be, when you're coming up the access drive from Anderson Center, the movie theater, the back of it will be what you see, and it'll have frontage on Town Center Way, as well as the shops that extend from the movie theater. So staff is encouraging the zoning commission to consider a condition that those elevations, have a front door appearance and consistent with the front of the building, even though it is on the rear of those shops. Again, these are the condition, or the recommendation of why staff recommends the PUD approval. We've talked about the variances. The one I forgot to mention was on the lighting plan. There was a portion of the lighting plan that did not, the foot candles were not compliant, and this was the area, sorry, I have to go back. And again, we didn't include the lighting plan in the PowerPoint just because they're very difficult to read. But this area, I believe it was this area right here where the access drive is. The foot candles were higher than what would be allowed. And we think this is critical that these are compliant because there are residences across the street from Town Center Way. There is a grade change here, but any bleed over would impact residential uses. So we are not recommending approval of the variance for the foot candles, the lighting levels. They are requesting the same variance for the height of the posts to be continued throughout the shopping center on the interior of the parking areas, not the streetscape areas. The streetscape areas are proposed to still be 24 feet. So the following variances are requested to allow for the one 6,000 square foot building to have a front yard setback of 16.3 feet. Allow the movie theater to have a feature that's to a height of 70 feet versus 45 feet. To allow proposed parking areas to maintain reduced setbacks along Town Center Way, which is, in areas is down to 0 feet. Modification from Section 150E to allow a reduction in perimeter landscaping. Modification from 149A to allow the relocation of the 37-foot tall light poles. And modification from Section 103 to allow for the relocation of the clock tower. And then again, staff did not recommend a variance from Section 149, which was the lighting levels exceeding .75. So be happy. Sorry, that was a lot, but be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the commission members? Mr. Anderson, we always start there. Yeah. That's good.
No questions.
Mr. Lewis?
Paul, relative to the letter from the township, there was two conditions, right? The easement, being granted the easement, and then also the funding.
Yes.
Can you address, is funding in the budget? Has it been spoken about with the trustees? Do we know how much?
Now, there are several aspects of funding. So one aspect of the funding deals with the sidewalk, and the township is recommending that the property owner pay for the sidewalk along Town Center Way. The other aspect is Town Center Way improvements, funding for Town Center Way. And at this time, we have a preliminary engineering for the roadway, but again, this was done back in 2007 with cost estimates from 2007, so we really shouldn't even share those for 2015. And the conditions will be changing because, you know, some of the parking area is changing. Town Center Way is changing on the southern, well, not the southern part, the portion that Kroger is improving. So Township has agreed to pick up where Kroger leaves off, and until we engineer or revise the preliminary engineering, I don't have any estimates for you, but the township is committed to go ahead and do that, and is looking at different funding sources to do that.
And you understand with the addition of the Krogers and this, they aggregate the traffic to be much larger than obviously in 2007.
Yes.
Do you have any idea when that would be completed?
Which portion?
The study or the,
We're currently working, and again, this is all with recent discussions from the fall going into now with these plans. So the township is still working with the property owner and working with Kroger on the other portion of Town Center Way as well. So putting all those pieces in alignment together. So no, I don't have, I think when we discussed it last with the applicant, any engineering would take at least another year, and construction wouldn't be able to start until after that anyway.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Gothard, questions?
No questions.
Okay, at this time, we're going to ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward and to the podium, speak into the microphone, state your name, address, and any affiliation or with regard to this case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, my name is Greg Dale with McBride Dale Clarion, 5725 Dragon Way, Cincinnati 45227, here on behalf of Victory Real Estate. And again, Mr. Chairman, I'll be very brief. We concur with virtually everything that staff has concluded, and I'll make just a few clarifications. But again, we appreciate staff's working so closely to get it to this point. Frankly, I think we're just down to a few details to be worked out. Let me just mention two things. With regard to the lighting and the lighting variance request, I do want to be clear that the lights are there now. That's an existing condition that exists, so the variance would be essentially to allow that to continue. But again, I think that's a moot point because Victory has indicated that they're willing to install shields to those existing lights that would bring it into compliance. So I think the variance is a moot point with the willingness to do that with those existing structures. With regard to the rear elevation of the movie theater, again, Victory is ready and willing to work with staff to provide the variation and details of the materials that the design guidelines call for to address that concern. It is the back of a movie theater, right? So, but we're certainly willing to work with the township on that, and other than that, all of the conditions are acceptable to the applicant.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission of the applicant? No questions. Question? Ms. Cook?
No.
Ms. Lewis?
No questions?
Ms. Goffin?
No question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Although I don't believe I swore anyone in to speak in favor of or against this application, if there's anybody that would like to be sworn in and testify, you can raise your hand, stand and raise your hand, and stand up, sir. Were you here for the readings earlier? Yes. Okay.
There was three that stood up.
Is there anybody else that didn't stand earlier? Okay. Sir, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Sir, come on forward. Please speak into the microphone, state your name, address, and your affiliation to the case, and whether you're a proponent or opponent.
Sure.
Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Raul Tejas. I am the owner of Big Frog Custom T-Shirts, which is also located in the town center. The address there is 26 Beachmont Avenue, Unit 214. Overall, I really support this plan. I think it's very good for the township and for the community. I have a concern with safety with the traffic, especially with the roundabouts where they're at now. I know this as a tenant, being there a lot of the time. The traffic gets very congested there at any given point of time. Cars are there day and night, and parking is difficult as it is. I think there have been occasions when it's difficult for the emergency medical team to get through because you have cars backing out. There's not a lot of width for the cars when they back out because they're parked on a diagonal. Those cars, I've witnessed accidents and near accidents. I've been involved in an accident with cars backing out and not hitting or not having enough room clearance when they're backing out. So when you're extending the northbound roundabout where the clock tower is, my concern is that it just makes everything that much worse, especially with the increased traffic that will be anticipated. And when cars get into the roundabout entering from Beachmont, and if you want to come visit my store or Latitudes or any of the other stores that abut Macy's, you have to drive all the way to the end of the roundabout and then drive all the way back out. And once you're in, you're not getting back out. There's no way. Now, until you get down to where the second roundabout is. So it creates a traffic congestion as it is. My concern is that it's just going to be worse. And there's not enough parking there now with the tenants that are there because the sites are basically full. So my concern is just, I just would ask that something be considered with the traffic flow. I don't know if it's possible to put a cutout halfway through the roundabouts a one-way so that traffic doesn't have to go all the way down to the north clock tower to come back up. I would just ask that be considered, or some type of arrangement be factored in. Again, it's a safety issue primarily. I would also like to state on the other roundabout, and I don't know that anything can be done about this, but again, I've seen this and I witnessed this, the utility boxes are very high, and the shrubbery is also very high. In the summertime, when it's in full bloom, it's very, very difficult to see traffic coming in that roundabout. There have been a lot of near misses, and I drive a pickup truck, and I've almost hit cars too going in. It's very difficult. The landscaping, the shrubbery is very tall to begin with, so it just adds to the problem. And again, I just would ask that be considered as a factor. I think also, I'm not sure that anybody addressed signage with all the new stores going in. I didn't see any discussion about new signage or height of signage or what would be allowed or where those would be placed and how that would affect the planned unit development. So just maybe that could be addressed at some point as well. There was one other thing, but I can't think of it, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. As is the process in a quasi-judicial case, we allow the applicant to refute any of the testimony or rebut any of the testimony that was presented. Mr. Dale?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, as is indicated in the staff report, a traffic impact study is in the process of being prepared for this, so we would make sure that those comments get addressed in that. My understanding is otherwise this meets all of the standards for turning radiuses and geometrics associated with the parking, but we would be happy to forward those comments to the traffic engineer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be seated.
I'm sorry, the one other...
Go ahead.
The only other thing that I really would like to resolve...
Sir, come on up to the microphone. We're being taped. Thank you.
I remember now what I was going to say. The only other thing I would ask that we consider is if there could be more visible signage indicating the one-way direction of the traffic flow. Multiple times cars drive down the wrong way on those roundabouts, and it does not... doesn't help matters. I don't know if one-way arrows can actually be placed in the roundabout circles or on the pavement itself, but really something should be done to further illustrate that it's a one-way direction on both sides of the roundabout. Thank you.
Mr. Dale?
Mr. Chairman, I think I would just give the same response. I'm taking notes, and we'll make sure that those comments go to the traffic engineer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. This time, are there any further questions of the zoning commission before we close the public hearing? Yes, sir.
I had a question for staff. On the new retail that's going in, is that building contiguous to the existing building, or is there a walkway?
This one, which one are you
No,
referring
go
to?
up.
This
Right
one?
there. Is there a walkway there?
There's a walkway on this plan, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions before we close the public hearing? Hearing no further comments and with no objection from the zoning commission, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on this case number 1-2015. As I said earlier, the commission can take this case under consideration, and we can deliberate tonight and make a recommendation or at an upcoming meeting. It's been our practice to act on the same night as the public hearing. I'd like to thank everybody that participated. This time, it's the pleasure of the zoning commission to entertain a motion if anyone is prepared. Thank you.
I just have one question to staff. The gentleman's concerned about signage. I'm assuming that would just fall under the zoning requirements for signage?
Overall signage for the
Storefront
town center. So currently, we have not had any requests for any additional freestanding signs. So the freestanding signs are going to be reused. As far as wall signage, as long as it's compliant with the current requirements, that's fine. If there is something that would require variance, it would come back for you for review. And I think at this time, the applicants just weren't far enough along with tenants to know exactly what to present.
But as any sign, that would be an application to the township?
It would. If
for
it's
review?
compliant, then it would be administrative review and approval. If for some reason variances are requested, it would come back to you as a modification.
Thank you. Motion at this time?
I guess I'll make a motion to approve case Anderson Township PUD 1-2015 PUD with the conditions set out by staff, including sidewalk funding for township or town center way being provided by the developer, that all comments referred to for traffic on internal circulation be forwarded to the traffic engineer per the applicant's statement, and along with that, approval of all the variances with note that the lighting at the condition of the access drive along Town Center Way be brought into compliance with the township zoning requirements. I believe that's it.
Staff, get that? Good. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Van Pelt?
Yes.
Mr. Goffin?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. That finishes our business for tonight. Anything else from staff?
You have one case scheduled for next month? March the 23rd, so if you could please mark your calendar, at least one case, so.
Thank you. We're adjourned.